Okay everyone, welcome back to part 2 of this lovely little still life we're painting here. I've zoomed in on the orange for you just to give you a good proper look at the detail. So there's the reference photograph, you should see it somewhere there, I think. And yes, let's have a bit of fun with this. Only a few colours: cadmium red, cadmium yellow, Naples yellow, and maybe a touch of magenta and burnt umber. Just I'll explain to you as I go anyway, okay? Let's start painting this lovely orange. So I'm going to try and keep it simple, all right? So what we're going to do is, I think I'll just paint the entirety of the orange a light colour. Let me just sketch in the skin. You see there is skin coming around here, look. I'm just going to sketch that in very loosely, just like that. Let's take a small flat brush, and I'm going to mix a nice soft orange first. I'm taking Naples yellow, a touch of cadmium red and a touch of cadmium yellow. And let me just have a look at this now. It's a very soft colour. Maybe make it slightly darker. I'll be using a lot of cadmium yellow in this as well. Let's take a look at this now. That's probably a bit better. I'm just going to go around the top area. You see where it's slightly dark on the orange, then you have this kind of whitey skin. I'm just going to leave that. I'm going to paint the rest of it this kind of colour here. Okay. Now, clean the brush very quickly. I'll go into some Naples yellow and some white. And I'm just going to put in along just there, Naples yellow and white for now. And I'm just going to kind of start softening it down into the orange, like that. Okay, so you can see now we're just kind of starting this process. We're starting. Let's get some titanium white and just go along like this. And notice the way I'm just kind of dabbing, right? But I'm also turning towards the center of the orange as well. You see what I mean? I'm turning it as I go. I'm trying to create the form, the shape of the orange. And I find dabbing is probably the easiest way to achieve this type of effect. Now I'm just going to clean my brush and go slightly darker for there. So titanium, oh sorry, not titanium white, cadmium yellow and a little cadmium red. That'll give us a nice, should give us a nice rich orange. I'm just taking my time now to get my mixes just right with this. Just take your time, there's no rush. We have plenty of time in all of this now, because it's nice to split a painting up into part 1 and 2, I think, because you can really just take your time. And I prefer taking my time. I don't like rushing in painting, especially tutorials. I just don't like rushing too much. I like to be able to take my time, you know what I mean? Maybe a little magenta in there as well. So cadmium red, cadmium yellow, a little magenta. And we go slightly richer and redder over on the right hand side. That's just where it's sort of in shadow over here, okay? I'm just kind of bringing it around, but I'm following the direction of the orange slices, you know what I mean? I'm just kind of bringing the brush around in that direction. Now let's get plenty of cadmium yellow and plenty of cadmium red. I want to go nice and rich with the colour as well. Oh, especially here, nice and rich and orangey. You could even take cadmium yellow on its own as well, because look, there's a lot of yellow in these as well, and just kind of dab a little bit of yellow in here and there. And just over at the right hand side, I want to darken this right down. I'm taking some magenta into some cadmium red, and I just want to go really dark with this kind of one over here, just in that corner, okay? Just dab, 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 dab. So we have sort of the basic colours in, so to speak. And I will just go up here and add a little bit of that here and there where it's kind of showing through this white stuff. A little bit down here and there as well. Now I am being very careful. I don't want to get too messy on the canvas. I don't want too much paint on there. So I am just kind of taking my time with this and going slowly. What I am going to do is get to a small round brush, little detail brush, and I'm going to just mix a slightly darker shade of orange. So cadmium red, magenta, and some cadmium yellow. And I want to go really dark just to pick out some lines and kind of just darken certain areas, you see, just kind of bring it around like that into the center. Just want to get nice and dark in some of those. And I also want to pick out some lines here as well. You see what I mean? Now I'm going to try burnt sienna, cadmium red, and just get some nice dark lines in around here, just to, you know, to bring them back out again. Okay, slowly but surely this is kind of coming together, isn't it? It's so much fun. You really should kind of practice painting these types of things at home, because it's so much, you really will have a lot of fun doing this. Let's put a little bit of dark in here for the center of the orange, and then I will just kind of soften that out to follow some of those lines. Okay, so at least now we have something to kind of start from. That's the basic kind of painting in. I'm now going to just take some titanium white and maybe a touch of cadmium yellow as well. So we have a very bright whitey kind of a yellow on the brush, and I'm just going to start bringing some of those lines down. Okay, I'm just going to mix up a nice bit of it here now, so I don't have to keep mixing every few minutes. Let's just start picking these lines and bringing them in. And the thing about this is, you know, you think sometimes as you're painting this, you mightn't think you're getting anywhere really particularly quickly, but all of a sudden then when you stand back and look, you realise that you've so much done and it looks actually quite nice. That's what I find, especially when painting fruit and stuff like that. You could be walking away and you feel like you're not making any difference, but then as soon as you stop, sometimes you stop and you take a look and you realise actually there's quite a good bit done. It's actually looking quite good. That's what I enjoy about this type of painting as well. I'm just kind of dabbing my brush in here now just to try and create some of that whitey kind of texture. Now a palette knife would do absolutely fine for this as well. But we're just going to take our time. There's no rush. I'm in no rush at all. No rush whatsoever. Now I'll get some very rich orange. And I'm just going to add, so there's plenty of yellow in this. It needs plenty of yellow, I think. I'm just going to kind of pick out little shades of that here and there and just sort of pop them in. And perhaps down here as well. Okay, just like that. Now I will get some darker colour again. I'm going to make a very dark, kind of a reddy orange. just with some cadmium yellow and cadmium red, and I just really want to pick out some dark lines over here. I can kind of see a couple, and I might even take, you know what, I'll take some burnt sienna as well, get nice and dark. And finally, I'm just going to take some of that whitey yellow again and just put a tiny suggestion of that just in here. It's just little highlights, that's all. And you may find this now maybe overkill and a little bit difficult for your stage of painting, depending on where you are in painting. Some people might find this a little bit difficult to grasp, but I promise you, just try it. That's all I'm saying, just try it. You might be pleasantly surprised. I'm going to move on and do the peel up along the edge up here. I'm going to take a small flat brush, nice clean flat brush, and I'm going to go with a nice rich dark orange, cadmium yellow, bit of cadmium red, and I'm just going to fill that in. And I will probably go over a lot of this with a palette knife as well later. So we can do a bit of work with the palette knife as well, you see. What I always say is, don't think that it's finished just because you're at this stage and you think it looks nice. You know, it's not finished. It's never really finished, I don't think, a painting. You can always add little bits to it, but I don't think it's ever really finished. Let's just go like that. Then I'm going to just start putting some richer orange through that. Touch of red perhaps, look. Cadmium red. And I know an orange is supposed to be orange, but what you can do is get some red like that, so some cadmium red, dab it on, then go into some cadmium yellow on its own, and you can dab that through it as well. And that just mixes on the canvas and gives you a beautiful colour. Okay. So there's lots of different ways you can paint these. I'm then going to get my round brush and just put in the lighter yellowy colour just behind that. So what would you call it? It's like the stuff underneath the skin. I forget what it's called completely now, do forgive me, but you know what I mean, that kind of stuff. Just keep putting this in, and we will define this then with a couple of darks as well. So let's get a very small pointy brush, little detail brush, and I'm just going to get some dark colour. I'm going to get some cadmium red, burnt sienna, and some cadmium yellow. Very rich colour. And just mixing it up here, very dark colour, even a touch of black, look. You can even get a touch of black in there as well. Very dark colour. And I'm just going to kind of suggest some little shadows in that. You see, just here and there, small tiny shadows. That will just help give us that little bit of detail. And I will just darken in here as well, like so. I'm then going to go right into some yellow, and I'm going to pop a little touch of yellow along the edge like this. And I'm just trying all of this now. Look, there's no guarantee this is correct. I don't even know if this is going to work out to how I want it to work out, but I'm just trying these little things now just to see if I can get the effect that I'm after. Okay, that's what painting is. You're trying, you're learning. You know, I'm just trying these different things now in the hopes that it works. I think I'm just going to take some white and just maybe redefine a few little bits here and there of that under peel again. I don't know what it's called, you probably know, but I'm just going to go along and pop little bits of white along under there to just try and get it looking to what I want. I think it needs a bit more coming down around here, doesn't it? I'm using just thick white paint now on its own, nothing else. Dab, 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 I find is probably the easiest way of getting that effect. How's that? I think I'll move on now down to the skin down here. Actually, what I will do is put a little shadow in just at the bottom of the orange. I think it needs a bit of shadow down there. So maybe a bit of black and a bit of red. And just pop a little bit of a shadow in down here. Just to sit that down. Now, as you look around the painting like this, you're going to start seeing things that you want to fix perhaps. So for example, I can see a few things out, just this line along here. I just want to go along the edge of that. I just want to fix it. I'm just going to dab some reddish orange just along there like that. Now, I'll stop at that. Also, other little things I've noticed, in along this bit here, there's just little, it's a little bit rough, it's not perfect. Let's move on down to this lovely skin that we have hanging off. Again, I'm going to mix a nice rich orange just to cover all of that first, okay? Cadmium yellow, cadmium red. Let's just start filling in first. Let's get the basic shape of this first now, okay? Get the basic shape filled in. And we can go from there then. I always say, just let's get the basic colours filled in. We can, you know, you can work on top of all of that then later. You can refine it. So that is the basic shade. I'm then going to start making it thicker. So I dried my brush and I'm making a thicker mix. I'm going to use to just dab. Comes up like that, doesn't it? Just get the basic colours down on the canvas first. Just going to dab, 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 first of all. I'm looking at where the darks are on the oranges. So wherever it's kind of dark, I'm putting more red in there. So for example, around the back here, it's much darker, isn't it? So I'm going to pop some red in there. That'll be just the beginning then of my darks in the painting. Down here is very dark, isn't it? So it gets very dark down around here. And it comes over here slightly as well. And then I'm going to add to that some magenta. So getting very rich and kind of pink. And we also have around this little bit here, a little bit of there coming in. Into that, I'm going to start adding more magenta and touch of black. So keeping it very dark but very warm, okay? A bit of black in there, look. And we follow that down around the base. There. And a bit there, softening it upwards. So at least now we're getting some structure. We're starting to see where the shaded areas are on all of this. A little bit coming down here like that. I'll clean my brush and then start focusing on the brights. So let's just clean the brush here now. And we can go right into some bright yellow, can't we? Let's take some cadmium yellow with a touch of Naples yellow. And I'm just going to dab. I'm going to use the dabbing technique. And start lightening with the lighter shade, okay? Now it seems to work, the dabbing technique, and you know, if you're like me and you're painting away and you discover a technique which seems to work, then keep using that technique. You know, if it works and it looks right, then just keep using it, okay? There's not a set way of doing anything in painting. There's no there's no certain technique for doing anything. It's all sort of, for me, trial and error. So if you like the way something is kind of looking, and you think, oh yeah, that's quite nice, I'll stick with that, then I will just stick with that technique. That's generally what I would do. Putting a bit of yellow up around here. Maybe a touch of red as well. We don't want to go too yellow with this, but rather a warm kind of a bright orange. But as you could see, I'm kind of filling in now the lighter shades. I'm just getting them in. We can focus on little things then in a moment. Right, let's stop and just take a look at what we're doing here. I get some cadmium red again, cadmium yellow. And I'm just going to go over these darker sections just again and soften it a bit more into the bright, okay? I would say the one tricky colour I find difficult to get right is a very vibrant orange. That's the one colour I always seem to have difficulty with, unless you're using a palette knife or something like that. In general, a very bright orange can be quite difficult to get right. So I think what I might do is try a palette knife, okay, just to get a bit more of a solid colour on all of these. So I'm going to take a palette knife. I'm getting some cadmium yellow and a bit of cadmium red. I'm not going to use white because white makes it too opaque. You lose your vibrancy with white. So I'm just going to use my palette knife and dab it on like this. And I'm basically just hoping that it gives me a nice, rich, vibrant colour. That's all it is. I'm just hoping. Into more yellow. And that seems to kind of give a nice texture on the orange, doesn't it? That effect with the palette knife. So I think it does seem to work. You see, and it's also just refining the edge a bit better for me, isn't it? So I think I'll stick with that technique for now. So we'll grab more. We'll go up here and we'll refine the edge of this then as well. And then we'll dab it in, and that seems to work quite nicely, doesn't it? I think all in all, it does seem to work. So I'll stick with that technique. So that's what I mean. When you find a technique you like, stick with it. That's what I love about painting, because you'll always discover something new with each painting. Each time you paint, you'll discover something different, a different way of doing something. That's what I absolutely love about this painting. You'll always discover something new and interesting, a fun way of doing something. And this is fun, you know, doing it like this with a palette knife. It's so much fun. You get so much satisfaction out of seeing those textures come to life on the canvas. It's fascinating stuff, isn't it? So let's just keep going now over here, softening that nice deep red into all of this. And I'm creating the center of the peel just with some dark in here. And then maybe take some black and just pop it in the center like this. And then I'm going to soften it outwards, look. Creating the impression of it coming out and turning. You see? Let me just move that down slightly so you can see better. Okay, a little bit of black again, a little bit of red. And just again, go in here like this. And then let's just flick it outwards to suggest these different shapes. Now I'm going to take some of the brighter orange, okay, and I'm just going to hit this with some highlight down here. So just around here, a little bit of highlight, okay. I'm just taking my time now with this. And around sort of the edge of it here, we seem to have a bit more highlight coming around, like that. Would you think that's correct? A little bit of that. And then we could, again, go back into some bright yellow. And let's just pop some bright yellow around here, up on top. That's really catching the light up there, isn't it? And there's a little bit of catching the light around here as well. Like so. And I think I will maybe go with some of the darker ones up here with the palette knife as well. You know, as they say, if it works, keep using it. And this for me right now is working quite nicely. So I'm going to just keep using this technique with my palette knife because I'm really enjoying it. I really am. Just keep it clean. That's the most important thing I would say to you. Keep your palette knife nice and clean. I'm going to start adding some darker colour up on those as well, just here. Needs a bit darker shade, doesn't it? So maybe some burnt sienna with some cadmium red. And in around here it's nice and dark, isn't it? I could even add a touch of black for just that section there as well. Going to go nice and dark in around the back in here, in underneath. Okay. Now I'm going to just start lightening. I'm going to just get some highlights going with all of this. We have some nice bright, rich coloured highlights as well in all of this. So let's take some lighter colour and just go along here and refine the shape of the edge and then bring it in with the palette knife. You may find a lot of this now kind of intimidating with the palette knife, but what I would say to you is just try. Look, it's only paint. It's not going to hurt you. Give it a go. If you make a mistake, it is quite easy just to scrape it back off and go again. All right? Don't be afraid. I'm going to take a small pointy brush and put a bit of light in there. A nice bright light. Cadmium yellow and white. I'm going to pop just to separate these now, okay? Like that. Put a little bit in here, like that. And it can be tricky to kind of get these to separate to a certain extent. But I think maybe the best way to separate them is if I just mix a very rich orange first. And just darken them down a bit like that. I think that might work a little better to separate them. Now I am going to add some dark in underneath that to sit the orange down on the table. It needs a bit of darkness down here. I'm just going to really darken that down. Some black even. You know, just dab some black in along there. And I'm also going to come down just under the wood and just kind of mess it up, leave it soften away. Like so. And that's not too bad, my friends. We have a bit of light to go in down there, don't we? And I will then add a few little details with my pointy brush. There's still a few details to go in on all of this. Small details. The difficult thing with oil painting is that because you're using oils, it's very thick and it becomes very thick and messy after a while, doesn't it? I think that's probably the difficult part of painting to get right. Let's just go like that, give it a bit of a wiggle. And it's mixing with the black underneath, but that's fine. Let's just keep going. And clean it again, just keep cleaning and cleaning and cleaning. Cleaning your brush. And we can keep at this as much as we like until we feel it's right. So I'll just keep going. I'm adding different shades. I'm adding Naples yellow, a little bit of cadmium yellow. Look, some white. We can add some white as well. Go along the edge with some white. Soften it in. Okay, that gives a nice life-like feeling to it, doesn't it? With the thick paint, it gives you that lovely kind of lifelike feeling. I am going to just go along here very gently with some white, just to suggest a few tiny little lights in there. And again, it's kind of almost white and a bit of yellow in the paint as well. I think just to bring it to life just a little bit more with the thicker paint. So here, for example, just refine the edge a bit more, like so. And the palette knife has created already that kind of dimpled effect, hasn't it? I'll go in here with some black first, then I'll just swing the black out, like that. and kind of comes out a bit there and a bit there. And there's a bit of a lightness then just with the little pip, you know, that little pip type of thing that's in there. And I'll just put a little dab of that in there as well. Okay, that's not bad. It's not too bad. I want to refine the edge of this with some dark paint. It's sort of almost fading in to the background. So I'm just going to take some dark colour and just come in along under this. This needs to be a lot thinner, doesn't it? So I'm just going to go in like that with some dark paint. I'm going to narrow this down, bring it right in. How's that? Probably a bit better, I think. And then I'm just going to soften it back out into the background. There we go. And this now is kind of coming on, I would say, quite nicely. I'm going to take a little bit of yellow on the tip of my brush and just suggest a bit of dimpling. You see those types of things you see on oranges, the dimple effect, isn't it? I'm thinking just a bit of yellow on the brush. Dab, 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 dab. Let's just go for it. Let's just have a bit of fun. Come on. Let's create some dimpling on all of this. And you can do the same with your darker shades. Take some cadmium red, cadmium yellow, but make a very dark shade of orange, okay? Plenty of red, plenty of yellow. And we can do the same with the darker sections of all of this. Look, we can just dab some darker shades up onto that. I'm just using cadmium red. The thing about painting an orange is, if you can even use touches of cadmium red, it'll still look like a dark orange, even though it's just cadmium red. Do you understand what I mean? It's very interesting how colours work like that. So even though I'm putting on a bright cadmium yellow with my brush, it's still blending in to make it look like a dark orange, isn't it? Or a bright orange, so to speak. I'm going to take some black and some red, just go in around the back of this and darken some of these. Okay. I think I should probably call this finished. I need to lighten that piece in there. It's just not working. It's the wrong colour, isn't it, really? Let's be honest. It's just the wrong colour. So pop a little bit of yellow over that. And maybe a bit of red. Soften it through. All we want really is a kind of a dark spot in the centre in there, isn't it? Now you can see I've ended up with a bit of green in there because I had black, a little bit of black on my brush which I didn't know I had, and you can see it's just sort of almost mixed to make a green, hasn't it? So I'm just going to pop a little bit of red over this. That's all we need to do. Pop a little bit of red. And then we'll just refine some of those whites, I think. We could probably use a palette knife. Should we try a palette knife with some of these whites? Let's try it, come on, let's have a bit of fun. We've done so much with the palette knife, we might as well keep going. You could almost call this a palette knife painting in orange, couldn't you? There's so much palette knife on this, but that's nice, I like that. We're just very gently going along with the palette knife, adding lots of thick white paint all over this orange, just suggesting these little bits of skin, the stuff under the skin, you know what I mean? You know what I mean, don't you? I don't know what it's called, but I'm sure someone out there knows what it's called. And my friends, I am just going to call that finished. I think if I keep going at this, there's a risk I might spoil what I have. And I'm afraid to risk that. I don't want to spoil what I have. So I think I will just leave it alone, perhaps. You know, it gets to a point in painting where you have to say to yourself, am I happy with this? I'm fairly happy with this. So do I keep going and risk making a mess, or do I just stop and say it's finished? That's a fine line, isn't it? I find, with painting especially, very fine line. I think I'm just going to call this finished, my friends. And there we are. An orange with orange peel. There we go. I will tidy up, maybe just tidy up there a little bit. But I think other than that, it's not bad, is it? It's quite a nice little composition, I think. It's very eye-catching, and that's what I wanted it to be in the first place. A very eye-catching kind of orange on a table. That's what I was trying to get in the first instance. So I think based on that, I've kind of achieved what I wanted. I'd say I'm pretty happy. So I think I'll just leave it well alone in case I ruin it. And there we are. So my friends, thank you all very much for joining me. It has been a pleasure. I must finish my coffee. Look, I have a cup of coffee next to me here and it's gone stone cold. I'll put that into the microwave, I suppose, and heat it back up and finish a lovely coffee. It's been a huge pleasure. I've really enjoyed that. I'm going to frame that. I think that will catch someone's eye. It's a nice change from landscapes. Do try it, just have a bit of fun, especially with your palette knife. Palette knife is a wonderful thing, isn't it? It makes such a difference. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed watching me. I hope it's been nice and chilled out and relaxing. And let me know what you think. Just let me know whatever you think. I'm open to criticism. I'm open to suggestions, advice, help, all of that. So if you think you can help me, you help me as well, as much as I'm helping you. So it works both ways, doesn't it? Okay, go on, have a go off of that. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you very soon. God bless and happy painting.